Welcome to the hot seat, where I interview someone who's had an impact on my life or someone who I respect and admire about what's going on in their life or what's going on in their business. In this case, I'm interviewing the guy who got me into the game, the guy who taught me search engine optimization, the guy who gave me a job in 2004, 2005, and introduced me to internet marketing. Amazing guy. You'll hear all about our story, our relationship, what happened in this episode of the hot seat. And we are live with Mr. David Wood. I want to play the clip of that where you're in that green, like 1987 boxy blazer, just solid lime green. You're walking out on stage. It's 2007 and Orlando at some Hard Rock hotel. You walk out on stage in front of what, 1,000 people?
Well, Orlando was 1,000. LA was 1,200. Yep.
Okay, so we're 2007. We're walking out on stage. The guy's going, David, woo! You've got the 2007 long side part going, like full red Australian hair flapping as you talk. So just so
I had a minder. I'd never had a minder before. This minder's making sure I don't go anywhere, and he's walking up with me on the stage. Four screens. Yeah, it was epic.
And on that stage, you came in cold. I've now had this experience myself, coming into a stage of thousands of people cold. They don't know me, and attempting to have them want to do business with me by the end of this conversation. You were selling a program. What were we selling? Were we selling?
It was.
Was it get your? It was.
A newsletter success. It was how to make money by sharing your passion with the world through newsletters and get paid for it.
It was content marketing, a content marketing strategy. When blogging was in, right? It was like personal blogging, newsletter subscriber, and then selling them in digital information. This was the model, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That program, what did you sell on that stage? A couple $100,000?
Yeah. Well, the first one we did in LA, we sold 150 grand. And then the second one, we had a smaller audience.
Right.
We had a smaller audience, and John Webster came to us after at midnight that night and said, "I wish I could tell you we doubled sales, but I can't. We tripled them."
Yeah, that was wild.
So it was like 380 grand in sales, and you and I had never seen anything like that. We didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, we didn't know that was possible. So let me back up a little bit and introduce who you are to my audience, which is okay. So we know that you're Mr. David Wood. So David Wood is a life coach, one of the OGs, original guys, which we should tell that story about how you got into coaching, but also my avenue into e-commerce, internet marketing, SEO. Just like the way that I got in this industry was through you. So you were like the deal that we made, I don't know if you remember this, but I was going to teach you poker and you were going to teach me search engine optimization, right? Because we met and, I was making money, staying up all night with a bunch of degenerates, trading my time for money, being a teenage poker player at underground clubs in New York City.
Johnny, how you doing? That was you. Johnny, how you doing?
Johnny, how you doing? And you, at that time, were sort of a pioneer in e-commerce, right? This is 2005, man. So
my first product was 2002. So yeah, that was like.
Well, when we ran into each other, it was 2005.
Yeah.
And at that time, you were using search engine optimization as a way to get visibility for a training program on how to do life coaching and stuff, which we'll talk about. But anyways, just introducing you as like the guy who brought me into this industry. I'm so thankful. We ended up working together for a number of years. It was really fun. Maybe we should tell a little bit of that story.
We should. And I'm going to hold you to that deal, man. You taught me a little bit of poker, but I think you still got some tips and strategies up your sleeve.
I worked hard on you for a long time.
I sucked. I still do, but I'm studying now. I've come back.
Have you made it? You made a comeback to poker?
I've come back. I'm playing 4 tables at once online, and I'm just breaking even. But if I can break even at 4 tables, I figure I got
I've been out of the life now for a decade, so I don't even know. Can you go online anymore? I thought one of the reasons why, like Full Tilt, the whole hustle where the people who were running Full Tilt, which was the big poker platform, were running that Ponzi scheme. They took all the money out. It's all got shut down.
Yeah, but you can play on offshore sites. So I play on, an offshore site.
Nothing sketchy at all about that. We don't recommend.
So I don't know if I'll get my money out of it if I win, but I don't care that much.
You're never seeing that money again.
Yeah. So you wanted to tell the story of, was it how we met or how we came up together?
I think any of our old stories. I mean, basically the way I look at it is like, you brought me into this industry, gave me a path. We had a lot of fun experiences running around New York City doing stuff. And I actually ended up taking over one of your product, all the marketing and launches and sales funnels for Solution Box for a while there.
Yeah. So I want to tell that story. So I met this guy who's playing poker, and he's like 20. I think he's about 20 years old. He looks about 12. And we would just go out together, and we had such a great time, and we'd like role play and pretend a whole bunch of stuff. We'd make up stories for people. And the deal was, I'll teach you internet marketing. You teach me poker. And man, I got to go ahead.
Yeah, it was just like we would do like little sketch comedy things.
Yeah. We might get to the queen bee. I
don't know if we'll get there.
I don't know if we'll get there. All right.
Pretty far out.
Yeah. And then you, I really acknowledge you. You just took that stuff on, because I could give people a bunch of DVDs and they're never going to look at them.
Sure.
But you studied that stuff. You took it on as your own. You started working on some of my products. You launched a whole product yourself, the Inner Circle coaching.
Yeah.
You were creating videos, and you just took to it like a duck to water. And you were there at my first big speech, backing me up. And one of the things you do and you teach is to serve the world unselfishly and profit. And man, you really served me. You helped me. You were like, David, you've got to eat. You've got to eat well. You've got to be taken care of. You've got to have all this stuff off your plate. You've got to perform on stage. You handled all the booth. You did all that stuff.
We were making it happen. And I like to say that, like, what Smart Marketer is. So Smart Marketer, as you know, is the brand's putting out this video. This is just a 2018 model of what Solution Box was back then. It's the same model, and it's just evolved for the time. And I learned this whole model in a way from you. I got a bunch of cool stuff from James Schramko when I was with him for a while, like doing really intense content marketing strategy. But I mean, this, which you're now back to, we should talk about, right? So you ran this model for a while, which is creating content, engaging a group of subscribers, adding value to their life through content that's relevant to a specific conversation or topic, and then having courses, trainings, events, whatever, masterminds that you sell to support this operation. Yeah.
And I am using that model again today on a different scale, because as you know, I semi-retired in Bali. Sure. And now I'm coming back. And people sometimes ask, they ask experts, what would you do if you had to start over again? Like, what were you? Well, now I know, because now I am starting over again. I get to do it all with new information. But before we get into that, I want to just acknowledge, I picked it back in the day. I picked that you were going to be a huge speaker. I absolutely knew that, because I've always billed you as the best communicator on the planet. And I know a lot of amazing people, and I've always said you were the best communicator on the planet, because you didn't do a training program. You were raised in a training program. You had an environment of that. So that's one of the reasons I love knowing you, is you have always modeled for me how to communicate with people, how to put attention on people, and how to find everything right. So
yeah, thanks. That as we all know, comes from where I was raised, Lafayette Morehouse. I cannot separate my own style from this group that brought me up, right? So it's like, thanks. Yeah, it's cool. So and you did call that. And I remember when you would say that, and I'd be like, I'm not really a front of house guy. That was my view. Like, I didn't really think I was going to be a influencer or persona or person who put out content. I just didn't, at that time anyways. This was before I had courses. It was like years. That was 2007 when you were telling me that stuff. And I didn't start putting out content until 2012. So, you saw something. Thanks for seeing that.
Sure.
So we were talking before this, that you had this, we're kind of jumping all over the place, but it's fun. So I just want to tell our story a little bit and some of the experiences that we had. You took me to Australia for the first time. Your mom still calls me the fruit bat because at that time I was basically only eating fruit.
Eating fruit bat. We would take you to the supermarket, and if you're going to eat only fruit, apparently you need to eat a lot. And this guy would fill the trolley with watermelons and just, it was awesome. That's how they know you.
I semi-regret the decision to have chosen that diet for a period of time. I was young and impressionable, and I was hanging out with someone a lady who was telling me that this was the way to go. Anyways.
It beats the 21-day water fast.
Yeah, that was a whole other, apparently I have I'm into intense experiences, it turns out.
Yes.
But back to I want to talk a little bit about your history, as having seen this industry since 2002. And we kind of touched on this before we got on the call about, you had this interesting experience that a lot of other people don't have, where you had a super successful production cycle. You made more money than most people ever see. And then you decided, hey, I'm going to take a break from all this ongoing work and I'm going to just chill out. And now you're coming back to production. I want to talk about that because I think that's actually a cadence that is interesting to look at. But first, let's go into your story of how did you get into life coaching? What's the story there? You were really known as the guy before coaching was mainstream. I tell people this now coaching has penetrated mainstream society. Everyone knows business coaches, relationship coaches, health coaches. It's common. Back then it was not. Coaching was not a societally accepted mainstream concept. And you were in that industry and kind of had influence over it back then. I'm curious about that.
Yeah. Well, the short version is I didn't begin life as a life coach. I was a consulting actuary to Fortune 100 companies on Park Avenue. So I had this office, I had this cushy job. I'd kind of made it professionally. But then I did a personal growth course called the Landmark Forum. And I kind of accidentally lucked into it. And I was very cynical because I was raised in Australia. And I was very cynical. I figured everyone's out for themselves. And I didn't believe in self-help. I thought these were a bunch of self-help junkies. I'm just going to get a taste of it and then take off. Well, they sucked me in. The thing really worked. I was having life breakthroughs. And I found myself coaching other people in the course. I couldn't help myself. I'm like, well, what do you think's in the way there? And what would happen if you totally confessed that to your partner of 10 years? And I was hooked by the transformation that was happening in people's lives. So I quit my job on Park Avenue and I went back to Australia and I took advantage of it because whenever you quit a job, I think you should always go and do something that you can't do when you have a job.
Sure.
So I thought, what would I do? And I figured I've always wanted to be an entertainer. I've always wanted to play guitar and be one of those guys at the ski resorts that wears an ABBA wig.
Okay, so that's nobody else's dream, but
everybody wants to do that.
But it's funny because our mutual buddy Nathan, he and I were talking. We were like, yeah, David's got the whole he can sing and play guitar thing. Like that's pretty cool. We don't have that. We don't sing or play guitar. You've got that like a skill set where you're a musician and you're good. Actually, you're charismatic, but you're also like you're good. It's fun.
Thank you. Well, I've been a performer. So I do improv. I've done a little bit of acting. I've done stand-up comedy. I've done music. So anyway, for a year and a half, this was what I did almost full time. I just went and played in pubs and parties and I really can't sing. I really am not a good singer. I mean, I can kind of get by, but I'm not a good singer. I'm an entertainer.
Okay.
So I just never got invited back twice to the same place.
Just go from place to place, bombing, and then
I did them all, including a stint on national TV on our Gong show.
Right, I saw that actually.
I played in a kilt, so I got to have that experience. But then I found out that some people are actually getting paid to change people's lives. They're getting paid to coach. I'm like, how do you do that? So then I devoted the next 20, 25 years of my life to learning how to coach and how to make it grow as a business.
Yeah, you were one of the first people that I knew of, or at least you had to have been one of the first in the industry to have educational content on business opportunity, almost how to become a life coach, the steps to go through. And you were part of some certification, right? You found it helped found some coaching thing.
Yeah. So what I found is when I do something well, if I do it and I'm doing it really well, other people seem to want to know how to do it. So then I like to teach it.
Sure.
So I was coaching people in 5 different countries. I was #1 on Google for life coaching. I was really kind of crushing it. So people are like, can you teach me how to do it? So it was natural for me to create a course. And then eventually we actually created a school. The school got certified. It's training people in 90 countries. That's just like a natural progression for me in anything that I'm really into. And I imagine it's kind of similar for you. If you're learning something, you want to share it with people. Like,
totally.
Hey, check this out. This is what I found.
And I think anyone who's interested in that model today has the best chance of making that work, because what we're also talking about, like what Smart Marketer is, the same thing I do at Boom. It's the same thing that we do at Zipify. And with the sort of birth of the influencer, of the creator, of the, someone who documents what's happening in their life and puts it online across all the social channels, that helps a group of people who are also interested in that subject, whatever it happens to be. It could be how to raise chickens. It's like, with the internet, this business model is only getting, it started back, you were one of the first people that I knew who was doing this, but now it's like open to a lot of people in a lot of different ways. So I think it's pretty cool. So well, let's get back into a little bit of like where things have gone, and we'll keep telling our story of like things that have happened to us along the way. But okay, you bring me into the game. I come up under you. We're running events. We're doing an information publishing model for a couple years. We have this big idea to run Continuity, which was off your book launch. You wrote a book, Get Paid for Who You Are, which we should probably link to. Good book. Where did things go? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, the book launch was a huge part of my life. I put 150 grand and countless hours into making this thing be everything. And I think one of the mistakes I made is not letting you run the launch.
I felt that way. I still feel that way. I don't know if we've never talked about this publicly, but there was like a little rift there between us for a while. So from my view, I had been running marketing for Solution Box, all the product launches, all the webinars, writing the copy, doing the sales page, doing everything. And we were crushing it. We were doing really well. And I don't like to use I got to find something. Crushing it is so, why does everything have to be crushed? Like we
were rocking it. We were
rocking it, man. And it was super fun and whatever. Okay. Then you fly off to this event and you get sold high ticket product launch, formula model launch. And by the way, we've been building up, you've been writing your book. Like the business model was David Wood, the influencer, and Solution Box and Solution Box products, right? Like you were part of the model, amplifying your voice, building you up as an influencer. You had a list. How big was the list? It was
150,000 at the peak.
And that for that time was pretty big to be it was like everyone into coaching in the world.
I think it was the largest list of coaches and people who want to be coaches at that time in the world. Yeah.
Okay. So my experience of it is you go to some event, you get sold some package of like, hey, these people are the best people out there to run the product launch.
Yeah.
You came back and you're like, hey, these people are going to run this product launch. And I was devastated. I was like, really? I'm not running it. How is this? They don't know what's going on. They don't have context for this. So, and I was really young, but we were also good enough friends that it was like, I was like, okay, we were good enough buddies that I was like, I'm going to put my ego aside and say, if this is what you think is in the best interest of the operation, dude, I'm on board. I did feel that I should have done it though.
I don't think I ever knew that you were devastated. So that's you.
Well, maybe devastated is a strong word. Disappointed,
right.
I think.
Right. Yeah. I could totally get that.
We talked about it.
Well, I think that was probably a big mistake because, I hired some people who'd done this and they'd done like really big launches and paid them a bunch of money. And the launch did not produce what I wanted it to do.
Sure.
So I imagine some of our listeners can relate to having huge expectations for something and it just like the server crashed.
I know.
And I paid a guy to reinforce the server. The server crashed.
You did some really innovative stuff though during that launch.
Oh,
and I don't know if it was a mistake, frankly, because ultimately I'm happy where I am. You're happy where you are. I think it was like the right thing to happen. However, I did get to do one thing on that launch, which was GPU. I was like, let's put an upsell for Continuity on the back end of this book launch.
Get Paid
University, which ended up being where I cut my teeth as an educator. Because
Yeah.
GPU, I ran those webinars twice a week for years.
Yeah.
So,
You rocked it. They're still on the web. They're still there. So the server crashed. The thing didn't produce the huge sales. It ended up making money over 2 or 3 years due to the continuity. So I'll tell you, I'll do a reveal right here. I wept that night. I was like, I just fell apart after all the pressure of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was devastated.
Yeah.
And
lesson there, I think we'll just pull out a little lesson. A couple things that I've learned over the years is like, it's good to be emotionally invested in the projects. If you're not emotionally invested, then you don't care enough. But so right on to be fully like attached to the outcome, because when you're attached to an outcome, you really give it your all. To set it up such that the entire operation rides on one thing, which in this case it didn't. I think you were just done. You'd just been going so hard for so long.
Yeah.
I don't know that actually because for years it still produced, right? Even after. So
yeah.
So,
it was profitable over the long term.
Totally.
And you can't put a price on the experience. I mean, that launch, I had levels upon levels of strategy. It was like, this is already good, and we're going to do this. And then we're doing this. And people couldn't even follow the 7. It was
fun. It was a good launch. It actually, how many books did you sell? Do we know?
I don't know. And what happened is, because I offered the ebook as well. Like, we did a giveaway. That was part of the thing. It was like, we're going to give away the book, and we raised $60,000 for the rainforest. Sting's Rainforest Foundation.
I think it actually ended up being a good launch in historically. If we look at all that came from that in terms of the continuity offer for the ongoing education, I think it actually worked. But anyways.
And then there's the life experiences of like being on CNN headline news and like doing all, like what a great experience. But then I was burned out.
Yeah, that's what it was. Is let's talk about that, because a lot of people get there and nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about and I say this, I did a whole training program called Smart Project Management. And the pitch for it is, one of the ways that I pitch it is like, I can go to events and I can tell you from across the room who is burned out, overwhelmed, overworked, under exercised, not eating right. Just like we get all this messaging from society that the way to go is to work super hard and to sacrifice and 15 hours a day. And like, this is what is currently in entrepreneur culture being widely broadcast, especially from the male entrepreneurial influencers, is you got to work harder than everyone else and longer than everyone else and sacrifice. And it's like, to some degree, yes, that is true at certain times. But if that is the backdrop by which you approach your business life, you will burn out. Most entrepreneurs at some point in their career experience burnout. And if you're not approaching it like a marathon and taking care of yourself along the way and being deliberate, like, you're never going to have longevity. And so you actually had a very intense experience of burnout. I'd love for you to add to this.
I did. I will. I want to talk about the burnout and the silver lining. But first, I want to touch on and double click on this that you're talking about. You are showing me. And I've been to your house, and I've like been in your car, and we've gone. I've kind of like shadowed you for a day in a way, and you have shown me a model of how to really enjoy your life and to be expanding your business, almost, well, not exponentially, but like at a really rapid rate. And I watched you. We went and we bought sand, right, for your beach.
You kept wanting to buy that big bushel of whatever that was.
Of hay. I wanted hay, man. I'm like, let's get some hay.
We go to a landscape supply store, and this guy sees a bushel of hay and says, "That's for me. I want that bushel of hay." And I'm like, "Okay, we don't need a bushel of hay, man." You're like, "Listen, I'm telling you, this bushel of hay.
Yeah,
this thing."
I wanted you to buy me a bushel of hay.
I thought it was strange.
And we bought this sand or whatever, and you just do a call in the car. You talk to someone about a staff issue, and then we go and we do something else that's fun, and then we play some ping pong, and then you go and do a video. So you really showed me that, and I've been using that in my coaching to show one of your community, actually, one of your smart market community is a client of mine, and I've been helping him see that he can be in Costa Rica, and he can be doing ninjutsu and training the local community and still have his business making record sales.
Yeah.
So I think there's a new paradigm that
two things on that. One is you have time for what you make time for, and business will fill your work life will fill as much time as you give it. And so if you're not deliberate about setting boundaries and having other experiences, then you won't, because there's always going to be more cycles in your business. Second thing, it's not a fair comparison to look at my life now, because I have literally 75 staff members who I can talk to or whatever. So like I'm operating, yes, I operate with a lot of flow and ease, and I'm having fun and I'm partying. I also work hard, but like my goal is definitely enjoy my life, create time and space and surplus for myself so that I can fully show up to my work at the times that are appropriate. Sometimes it's longer. Like I got this event coming up next week, Blue Ribbon Mastermind. I'm spending a little bit longer each day. I got to prep slides and things like that. But I think that if you approach it like this is a marathon, if you understand that this business model, if you're watching this, you're probably interested in online business. It's just the curve is like this, been like this since I got in with you in 2005. The amount of that money that people spend online has just gone up. It's still going up. And so there's like endless opportunity. And if a lot of people are too short-sighted, they're in pain, right? So pain has you want to act urgently to get out of pain. And most entrepreneurs, most people who are doing businesses have some form of pain, and they're chasing something. It could be freedom of time, freedom of location, freedom, a little bit more less financial stress, ability to spend their time doing something they like, ability to work from home, whatever it is. And when you look at it like a marathon and you approach it a little bit slower and you say, where do I want to be in 3 years or 2 years, rather than like the next 6 months, you have more space because it's going to take you 2 to 3 years to get something really humming anyways. This is how it works, of active, dedicated, consistent attention, an hour a day, a couple hours a day, whatever you have, it'll take a while. And so if you actually end up being more effective, and the thing gets bigger and the snowball grows faster and the energy builds because you're consistent with the energy you're putting into it. So it's just constantly moving forward. You're taking care of yourself so that obviously you're going to get sick sometimes, whatever, you're a human being, but you're giving yourself the best shot at success by having fun doing what you're doing and taking care of yourself along the way, because that's the only way you're going to make it in the long run anyways.
Yeah. I think I'm definitely not a proponent, and I think you would agree with me here, of foregoing all of your pleasure now to have pleasure in 20, 30 years.
Yeah. Delayed gratification, you know what I mean? For longevity is a bad move.
Yeah. And some religions, I think, are based on that this life is not going to be very good, but you are going to, like, once you die, you're going to have everything. And I'm not taking away from anyone's religious viewpoint. I want to add to it. How about you have a really good time now and have great business success, and then whatever you believe in the afterlife can come to you then as well. So, and I'm taking this on now. I've had realizations in the last 3 weeks that I think my focus has been a little too much on my business. And I realized what I really want, what my life wants right now, is a solid home base. I want a cat. I want a dog. I want a partner, not necessarily in that order. And that's actually more important to me than any kind of business success. The business success is also important, but it's not the priority anymore. So that was a big shift.
It'll come by virtue of you having that solid home base. You should definitely get a place and a cat and a dog and feel rooted. I talk about the experience all the time. Everyone's always selling you that the best, rent, you save money when you rent. Renting gives you freedom to jump around. It's like, sure, 100%. I agree with that totally. What you're missing there that is equally, if not more valuable to certain people, right? So there's a part of that that's misguided. What you're missing is the experience of having a place of your own and investing in that place, and the beauty of that experience, having a home and making the yard nice, and having like the experience of ownership of a place. Of course, you're a steward of it for a time, but that experience is so fulfilling. The roots that you set down can create a foundation for you to grow. Like I have found, and this is obviously, you can't do cause and effect here, but as Carrie and I started in a 500 square foot New York City studio apartment, right? 500 square feet, our whole life was there. And then we made a little bit more money and we moved to like 700 square feet. And then eventually we moved to Brooklyn. We had like 1,500 square feet. And then we bought a house upstate, which is not this house we're in now. This is a rental because we bought a piece of land. But that house that we bought upstate was like 4,000 square feet. And with every jump of physical space, our businesses grew exponentially. That just was how it worked for us. And having that home that we owned for 3 years and building that foundation and setting up an office where I was going to, you know what I mean? It was just like, it was a really valuable experience that ultimately in the end didn't end up costing us because we sold the house and stuff, but I would have paid for that happily.
Well, hearing you talk about your housing experience reminds me of another quality that you have that I think is amazing. And I think your listeners would know this already, but I want to say it out loud to kind of anchor it. You have the ability to enjoy any experience. And a friend of ours wants to...
Now the Ye Ezra hour?
Yeah, man. Well, it's important. You model it, and I think I get a lot out of it, and I want other people to get a lot out of that too. Because I think the way to enjoy life is not really to have more stuff. It's about how do you take what's coming at you and how do you really enjoy that. And one of our friends described you once as an enjoyment machine. And he is right. I've seen you take experiences that I would call horrendous, and you've just found the good in them and found how they're right. So hearing you describe the housing experience, that's a positive one that most people would enjoy, but you can take anything. And that's one thing.
It's like the old rabbi, man. The old rabbi who said it's a far, far better thing to have the ability to enjoy what you have than to have the ability to get what you want. Because if you get what you want, it becomes what you have. And if you don't know how to enjoy what you have, there's no point in getting what you want. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a frame to take on. So thanks.
Yeah.
But I do, even if you're going to argue logic, right, on this, which is the way a lot of people will follow, is when you set some kind of logic down. All right, I'm actually going to cut two parts of this now. I'm going to cut the religion bit, and I'll cut this little part here where I'm talking about logic. Where do we want to go next in this conversation? Because it's been really good, kind of been all over the place.
Well, I want to talk about. I was thinking of saying something that I'm having trouble finding right now, which is a big reveal. I talk about energy levels and health, and how I'm not finding that right. That's one option. And we were going to talk about the silver lining of the burnout, which was my shift to what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So energy levels are the burnout, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. That fits in.
Why don't you go and say, hey, I want to take it back to burnout and tell you about my experience there as someone who did it. So let's do that. Yeah.
So I want to get back to the burnout and talk about my experience as someone who had that. My energy levels, even today, sometimes they're up and sometimes they're good, and sometimes I'm crashing and I'm just feeling exhausted, and it's a win for me to send an email. So I'm inspired again in this call and talking to you, and reminded that my job is firstly not to change that. My job is firstly to find that right and to see how I can enjoy that, how I can enjoy that ride. And from there, I can look at my nutrition, my exercise, all that stuff, like how I can change that. So,
which we've talked about, and you actually do have a plan for. You know what I mean? You are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm rocking it, but while it's happening, there's still the mind going, "This sucks. This absolutely sucks." And my journey, my job is, how do I find that right? Because if I can find that right, I can find almost anything right. And I bet everyone listening to this has something in their life that they're not finding right, and that they're like really upset about, or angry about, or sad about, or scared about.
Sure. Or super resisting it, right? And you embrace it, you take it on. It's the old, what you resist persists.
Right. And from there, change is more likely.
Yeah.
The silver lining to the burnout was I'd been working for 20 years supporting coaches and supporting people and growing their business and doing internet marketing and all of that. And I still love that. I'm a raving entrepreneur. But I've been wanting for 20 years to get to the more of the personal side. Like, okay, your business is going well. Let's make it go better. But how's your enjoyment of life?
True. And it's one of the reasons why we were such a good fit, was because you were so interested in the coaching model, concepts, creating change in people. I was so interested in the marketing side of it that it was a great little team we had for a while there. And I have seen with this transition, you switching your focus from entrepreneurship, business, content about how to, because you were running a business, you started doing content about how to run a business, but it wasn't but now to being more personal development, talking to people about their experience, how they can enjoy their life more with everything that they've got going on. And you're coaching some smart marketer subscribers. We sent an email, and I'll link to it under this, talking about your coaching services, what you do for people. And you have a bunch of folks from our community that you do coaching with, right?
Yeah, and love them. We're having a really good time. So I went from business success to life success, which includes business success, but it's much more. And I'm feeling it's so right for me to be helping people. How do you play this game of life? How do you play it as a game so you can enjoy it and have fun? But how do you play it for real? And yeah, I'm doing it with a couple of your...
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to say you're not doing business now. What I was saying is you were literally teaching, here's how you set up a newsletter content that you were not super inspired by. And now, what you did, you were good at it. But you were doing content like that. I do both, right? I do both stuff about how you show up as a person, and also all the hardcore technical digital stuff. But you were doing that technical stuff. And now you switched almost 100% to just doing the emotional inner game thought process, how you're approaching things, how you relate to it, right? Kind of thing.
Well, I like to think it's about 50-50. So I love business and I love strategy, and that's really important to people.
You're good at business strategy. I'm talking specifically about technical, showing off interface.
Oh, right. Yeah. I know. I don't teach the how-to.
That's what I'm saying. You did teach it though back in the day.
Yeah. Now it's more, how's your staffing? What's your plan? How's your relationship with your manager?
Strategic.
What are you going to do branding wise? Yeah, exactly. But also the other bit, which is so important to me, one of my clients, which is a smart marketer community person, told me that his kid, he realized during our sessions, his kid sees the back of his laptop at dinner. And he's like, I don't want my kid to grow up seeing the back of my laptop. Right? So
that's intense.
Now he's got a whole new relationship with his son. I want people to have those experiences while they're having record sales.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I appreciate 100%. You sending out that email. I've really enjoyed every single person I've met from the Smart Marketer community that's come for a coaching session.
Right on. So burnout, silver lining is it actually switched you to be more focused on what you want. You took a break for a while, you got well, you're now well enough to be back in the game, and you're now focused in an area that actually lights you up more that you weren't able to see before.
Yes.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, that's the silver lining to burnout. And my hope for people is that they can get those silver linings without the burnout.
Sure. Yeah. Don't go through, no reason. And frankly, no fair burning out. That's like not okay, right? You got people who count on you. You are, you person, it's your job to ensure that you don't burn out. Nobody's going to hold that for you. You've got to be responsible for where you're putting your energy and how much you're directing, and do it in such a way that is going to have you feeling well and happy and fulfilled so that you can serve other people in your life. If that's your goal. If your goal is to just go hard body out there in the paint for 3 years, right on. That's the strategy exists in relationship to what your goal is. And my goal is what I just described. I want to be doing it, and I want to be doing it for a while. And I see no stop. I really love everything I'm doing. It's super fun. I enjoy it. It's only getting more interesting and dynamic, and I want to keep doing it. And so since that's my goal, that dictates my strategy. If your goal is hard body out there in the paint, doing it, just pushing, and you're just going to go for a couple years and then, you want to just be done and go do something else, that's another way to go.
Yep. And I've done that.
Cool, man. So what else should we talk about on this show?
I was wondering, is there, this is an opportunity to tell our story. Is there anything about our story or your story and how you've come up and gotten to where you are that you want to cover?
Are there any fun little stories about, experiences we've had that are interesting and funny and informative that we could tell? Any specific ones?
Well, I was thinking about this beforehand, and I like the story of you singing your first song to your bride at your wedding and blowing away everyone who knew you because they didn't know you had it in you.
Yeah. I mean, we could tell that story.
Did you get shy, or you seem to get really quiet and still as I was saying that? We don't have to tell that story. I was super impressed. That was you, Liz, like doing something that no one thought you could do. And
yeah, that was cool. That was cool. I don't want to talk about that one on the show.
All right. We want to talk about that story.
But I mean, I don't want to talk about that one. I mean, it's kind of a fun one, but that's for Carrie to tell if she wants,
We'll cut that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to edit this totally. I'm going to edit certain parts out. We've got a lot of really good stuff. It'll end up being 70% of the length of what we recorded because it'll be tightened up.
Right. Cool. There's nothing else that comes to mind. I'd like to offer people a session at some point if that.
Yeah, do it. Do a pitch right now.
Yeah.
Hey, so before we wrap up, I think we should do a recap of your. This show was not designed to be pitching you. It was just like, hey, let's talk about our experience in this industry together. You're an influential person in my story of this work life, which is internet marketing, digital marketing, e-commerce. Smart Marketer may not exist had I not run across you, right? Or Boom or Be Friendly or Zipify or any of them. So it's like a real, I don't know, maybe would they have? I would have found digital marketing through some other means. I don't know. Right. And would it have been, it just wouldn't have, I got in, it was a great time to get in. So this was kind of like to tell a little bit of that story. We could talk about SEO too. We can cut that into the beginning. But before we wrap up, I want to recap what you do for people in case anyone wants to hire you or do a coaching session with you or something.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks. I'd love to. There were three things that I've identified that I do for people. One is helping them get clear on what they really want and set goals that'll make a difference to their life. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and some people, that's all they want. Like, all right, set me in a direction and off we go. I'm going to do that on my own. But the second thing is a lot of people, once we've worked that out, they'd like support in making that happen, making sure that they're performing at their peak and manifesting those things in time and space. So achieving their vision. And the third thing, which people don't come to me for, is what we've talked about in this discussion, which is appreciating what you do have. If you can triple your enjoyment of what you have, then my work is almost done. So that's what I do for people. I'm calling it play for real because I want you to play. I think this is a game that we're in. I think life is an ultimate game with a lot at stake. And are you playing the best game you possibly can? If you know you're playing the best game you possibly can, don't talk to me, or we'll have a beer and we'll have a chat. But if you think there might be a gap, there might be room, you could up your game, then I'd be happy to offer you a session. I love your community. I'm really enjoying the Smart Marketing
David Wood
community.
says, get off the bench.
Get off the bench.
For real.
You know what? I bet a lot of your listeners are off the bench already. They are rocking it out.
100%.
High performers. The question is, what more is available?
Yeah, I mean, listen, every Olympic athlete has a coach for a reason.
Exactly.
Coaches are good. Coaches help you.
Yeah, exactly.
In any area.
I'm not
a jiu-jitsu coach.
Right. I'm not that into fixing. I don't do the problem employees. I don't do the people who are like struggling in every area.
Sure.
You're already successful. But I'd be happy to do it. Go to my website and request a session if you like. I'm happy to do one session with you. We'll create a plan. If you want to implement the plan on your own, go for it. If you want my help, we can talk about working together. And the website is playforreal.life. You can request a session through that site. Yeah.
I'll put a link to it. Cool. Hey man, thanks so much for coming on. Super fun to talk to you. And check David Wood out, playforreal.life. Catch up with you later.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
That was the hot seat with David Wood. Let's move on to the next segment.